I spent my entire life building a home for my family, never imagining that the person I trusted the most would one day turn against me. My own son, the one I raised, the one I loved, took my house from me. Pause for 2 seconds. Let the shock sink in, but this isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of patience, strategy, and finally, taking everything back. For decades, I worked tirelessly, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes sacrificing my own comfort just to provide my family a safe place to call home. That home was empty, just walls and a roof. It was memories, laughter, and a lifetime of hard work. And yet, one day, I woke up to a nightmare. My son, the very person I had trusted to honor our family, had found a way to legally transfer the house into his name, without my knowledge. Everything I had built, slipping away. Sound cue. Heartbeat or slow suspenseful tone, I won't lie. It felt like the world had crumbled. I felt powerless, angry, hurt. My own flesh and blood, the person I had nurtured, had pushed me out of my own home. I asked him why, but the excuses were hollow. The trust I had placed in him, gone. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to let anger make me reckless. I knew I had to be smart. I had to fight back, not with fists, not with threats, but with patience and with the law. Because sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't instant, it's deliberate, strategic, and undeniable. I started gathering every document, every proof, every loophole in the transfer. Every step I took from that day forward was calculated, and little did my son know, he was about to learn a lesson he would never forget. Tomorrow, I'll show you exactly how I turned the tables, legally, and took back everything that was mine. The first thing I knew I had to do was gather proof. Every document, every piece of evidence, every small detail that could show the truth. I spent hours going through old property deeds, bank statements, emails, even text messages. Every little thing mattered. I realized that patience was my strongest weapon. I couldn't confront him rashly. If I did, I would give him a chance to cover his tracks, to hide what he had done. So I watched, I listened, and I documented everything carefully. There were days when it felt hopeless. I saw him enjoying the house, living comfortably, while I had to stay in a small apartment, feeling the weight of betrayal. But I reminded myself, smart revenge is a marathon, not a sprint. I consulted with a lawyer, someone I could trust completely. I explained everything, step by step. And together, we found the cracks in his plan, loopholes in the property transfer, mistakes he had made, thinking I wouldn't notice. Every mistake he had made became my weapon. It wasn't easy. I had to be patient. I had to resist the temptation to confront him directly. Every time I received a threatening message or a disrespectful call, I stayed calm. I knew that losing my temper would only give him an advantage. Slowly, step by step, I built my case. I filed documents, sent notices, and strategically moved pieces into place. Every move was calculated to ensure that, when the time came, I could take back everything legally, without risking failure. My son started noticing subtle changes, lawyers visiting, letters arriving, phone calls he couldn't ignore. The confidence he once had began to crack, and I stayed silent, letting the pressure build. He had no idea what was coming. By the time I made my first legal move, he was already panicking. The man who had thrown me out of my own home now felt the first tremors of what was coming. And yet, he still didn't know the full extent of my plan. That part was coming. This was just the beginning. What he thought was a simple theft of property was about to turn into a masterclass in patience, strategy, and justice. I was ready, and the next steps would ensure he never underestimated me again. Tomorrow, I'll show you how every piece of evidence, every calculated move, led to the moment he would realize that I had already won. The day finally came when everything I had been planning fell into place. Every document, every loophole, every piece of evidence I had carefully gathered was ready to be presented. I walked into the courtroom not with anger, but with quiet confidence, because I knew the truth was on my side. My son tried to appear confident, trying to downplay what he had done. But I could see the cracks in his demeanor. He had no idea that every move he made had been anticipated, every mistake catalogued, every lie documented. As the legal proceedings unfolded, I stayed calm. I let my lawyer present the facts clearly, methodically. The judge listened, examined the evidence, and with each point, the reality became undeniable. The home I had built with decades of sweat and sacrifice was mine legally. Completely, unquestionably mine. I watched as the shock on my son's face grew. The realization hit him slowly, painfully. The house he had thought was his, the control he had tried to assert, was slipping from his grasp. And it wasn't because of threats, or anger, or yelling. It was because I had been smarter, more patient, and more determined than he had ever imagined. When the final ruling was announced, a wave of relief and satisfaction washed over me. My home was back. My life's work, my memories, my sanctuary, restored. I didn't feel the need for revenge beyond the justice that the law had served. Sometimes, the smartest revenge is letting the truth do the talking. Looking back, the betrayal hurt more than anything else, but the patience, the careful planning, and the unwavering belief in justice had turned that pain into triumph.